Okay, here we are in part 2 of this tutorial series on Trimble Realworks. So what I want to do now is, now that we've essentially aligned our project in the last tutorial series and set things to 0, what I want to do now is I want to clean up all these points really on the outside of this project, because I can see that there's a lot of stuff that got picked up here. In this case, we're looking at the 13th floor, and you can actually see adjacent buildings, residence in this case, just at the adjacent site. So what we want to do is we want to essentially segment out the area that we want to work with, and then we'll continue to chop that up in the next video. So the way I want to start with this is I want to go to a parallel view, and I'm going to be looking at it from the top. So my first move is always to, under the edit mode, I want to make sure that I'm highlighting this. And let's see. Let's view only this. Okay, so now that we have our project cloud highlighted, I'm actually going to pull this over a little bit more so we can see the number of points that we're working with. This is really helpful in this step of the production mode of going through and just understanding how many points we have. So what I'm going to be doing is, with our point cloud activated, I'm going to be going to the segmentation tool, and essentially this works as a way of cropping and saving chunks of point cloud. So where I want to start is, I actually am just going to be doing a nice clean overall crop of this project, and I'm going to be starting with the corner of the northwest corner here. And I'm actually going to be picking a point right here, and we're going to be cropping with a square. So my goal here is to really crop just outside of the windows here. That's essentially what this is the glass is somewhere right in here. So at some point we start losing the intensity and we get those red kind of trailing off points through the glass. And so essentially we want to be cropping this entire project just outside the windows. And we'll be cutting out some other stuff here, like, all these points over from the man lift. We don't really need any of that in here. So I'm just going to be cropping essentially to the extent of my floor. So I'm going to pick a point about right here, a little outside my windows. And before I hit OK and crop this, I want to just check these other corners and really make sure that I'm not cropping out anything such as the face of the windows or the walls that I want to keep in there. So I usually just check my two opposite corners that I wasn't looking at while I was drawing that that outline. And so let's zoom in here and we'll just check this real quick. And that's one of the crucial reasons why in part 1 of this series we wanted to go through and really align our point cloud to a squareness of our screen, so that when we're doing this with the rectangular selection, that selection is as tight to the target as possible. So I'm happy with these results. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be keeping the points inside this area. So as soon as I click this, it's going to be cropping all the other points. And so just as quick as we did that, with one more selection with a rectangle, we can look at the front of this point cloud, and I'm going to be cropping essentially the top and the bottom in this case. So in terms of the top, I want about to somewhere probably right in here, and then on the bottom I'm going to be cropping it to about right here. So again, with the rectangular tool, I'm just going to eyeball it over here, and that looks pretty good for the top. So I'm going to pull and pan over to the right, and then in terms of the bottom, I'm going to be cropping just about to right there so that it's kind of nice and clean at the bottom of that opening. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to keep the points inside again. And if I wanted to continue and go through and crop out additional points that I just know probably aren't going to be useful in the project, I could look at it again from the side and just kind of go in here and use the freeform tool to just kind of go around and crop different chunks. And if I wanted to crop just the area that I selected in this case, it's essentially the X to X out that selection. So, okay, so with that, we're looking pretty good here, except for I'm zooming way out there. So So at this point, what we want to do is we actually want to take this selection that we've cropped to, and we actually want to create a new point cloud from this. And so if you look at the numbers over here, it went from about 165 million points, and it created this object that essentially is everything in the middle that we cropped out. So what we're seeing now is we're actually seeing the remnants, or those 6 million points that we had cropped out of the project. So that's good. I'm going to close this tool, and we'll actually see that it reverses the selection. And now we just have that object turned on, and that's essentially cropped down to how I want it for the rest of this production work. So I'm happy with that, and we can continue on in the next video. We're going to be chopping things up even more, and starting to create different layers and sections through this that will give us some greater visibility, control, and make it a little bit more user-friendly for production work outside of this program. So, okay, part 3 is coming up, all about segmentation.